Let's talk about sex, baby.
Let's talk about a good thing. Can we cue up the beat? No, no, we'll get copyright strikes. We can't have that.
Uh,
Okay,
What are we talking about sex? What is it that we want to talk about?
what I want to ask you about next
Yes.
is in your writings on your website. There's a lot of stuff on mindfulness and a meditative approach, which I think, whether you believe in the spiritual or not, has benefits for everybody. Like Sam Harris is a huge proponent of mindfulness and meditation, and he's like one of the most famous atheists in the world. So um, I wanted to ask you about Tantra, because Tantra is kind of like, as I don't understand it as well as you do, but it's kind of like a meditative approach to sex. Is that right? Can you tell me about Tantra?
Yeah. Okay, so there's a lot of different fields of Tantra, but let's just say, in a modern perspective, Tantra is conscious sexuality. Conscious sexuality. So that means that you are learning to be fully present in what is happening sexually, what's happening in your body, what's happening between you and your partner, what's happening with your partner. So being really, really conscious, and this brings in the mindfulness and because you kind of get yourself into these breathing meditations with your partner. The idea is to get into a place where you really become one unit. You become a team. You work together so that you start with breathing techniques in tantra, which brings in the mindfulness, brings in the presence and meditation, and you start to feel the breath of your partner. Really feel it, feel the intakes, the outtakes, and you go into that. So then it just evolves from there. So you're opening up all your senses. You're slowing down. You're slowing way, way down. Tantra is a slow movement of connection and sexuality. So the mod the typical way of people approaching sex is in a very quick manner. They're all heated up, they're excited, they maybe have an erection. Let's go, let's do it. Boom, 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 done. Uh, and someone's not that satisfied usually. Usually the female-bodied individual, and even the male-bodied individual is not either, because they haven't really. And this is the kind of clients I get. They haven't really got into a deepness, into a really deep connection with each other, into a presence with each other. So I like to incorporate aspects of Tantra because it's about being very conscious about what you're doing, what you're feeling, what you're sensing. And yes, like you say, mindfulness is part of that as well, because you want to be there. You're not thinking about the groceries, you're not thinking about what you should do, how you should do it, which way, oh, maybe I should have worn that. Oh, I look shitty. I should have been, like, getting out of your head and getting into your body. So part of this is also about embodiment.
yeah, that's really interesting because I've seen some like documentary stuff about tantra. I've never tried it. But I have done mindfulness meditation, and I always kind of thought, when people talk about meditation, it sometimes they kind of think of not being in their own body, but really mindfulness meditation is all about being exactly where you are and completely like trying to experience exactly where you are in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that totally makes sense for why some people might not be having great sex, is that they're not really 100% in the moment. So how do you kind of approach that? How do you incorporate, because at least for my own experiences with mindfulness meditation, you kind of want to be quiet, and it's really hard to you're really not supposed to be thinking about other people when you're doing mindfulness meditation. So how do you kind of incorporate that into a sexual experience?
Well, there's lots of different techniques around mindfulness. So it is taking that part of presence. Okay, so you're first of all, it's becoming present in your own body. So being
Mm-hmm.
able to, and I start with breathing, because most people don't know how to breathe in a deep manner. They're breathing from like the chest up, and the rest of the body's not really getting much breath. And so where's the sexual energy? Where I'm not going to use the word energy. Where's the
Yeah, I don't
sexual?
know. Kelly's rolling over right now.
Oh yeah,
That's
I
okay.
gotta work.
We'll let it slide, Liana. We'll let it slide.
So where is the breath is not really fully getting into your sexual organs, right? It's not really fully expanding your sexual organs. We're kind of, and people are in that place when they're having sex too, and so that's why guys ejaculate very quickly, because they're not allowing not allowing the breath to move through their body. They're not. Yeah, so really, like, focusing on the breath is the first thing that I do with people. Get people breathing in a deeper manner, so that breath is moving through their entire body. Because when you start to breathe into your body, you start to feel your body. You start to come in contact with your body. And then when you come in contact with your body and you bring the energy, I'm going to use energy, fuck it. Okay, you bring
You're just like, Kelly's not on the line anymore. Just
So, you can then connect to feelings, desires, things. You can connect to that. If you're all heady in your breathing, you can't connect, and you need to connect to those desires in order to start to flow in a sexual manner, right?
That-
to start to yeah. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that definitely clicks for me. Again, in my own experience with mindfulness meditation, I feel like taking some time to just sort of scan through the body and say, hey, what's going on down there? Am I feeling pain? Am I feeling discomfort? Am I actually even comfortable, or am I just still? And that sort of mental check-in, that goes along with the breathing during sex makes a lot of sense for being like, am I enjoying this? How is the other person responding? That makes sense.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
people just go, and this is one main element that I talk a lot about. People just go way too fast. They just go way too fast. And yes, it's fun to have quick sex sometimes and just, have a quickie, as we say. But if you really want to experience your partner's body, if you want to go into deeper levels of orgasmic state, you have to slow down. You have to really feel your own body. You have to feel your partner's. It's like it's a dance, it's a sexual dance that needs time to build. The energy needs time to build, right? It's like, building a fire. You got to keep putting the wood on and then put a bigger piece on. It's a gradual process. So a lot of my work with people, especially when people first come to me, we got to first get them breathing and then get them slowing down.
As a man who's with another man, I can definitely say that we appreciate the quickie, but every now and then it's also nice to have a marathon as well. And
Yeah.
And you're right, though, the orgasm is more intense when it's delayed and when you're more into it. And sometimes you're just fucking and sometimes you're making love. There's a definite difference there.
Absolutely. And you can't really go into deeper orgasmic states if you don't slow down and take your time. Especially for the female bodied individual, you have many layers of orgasm that you can experience, and that takes time. Sex is not linear, so it's going to take some heated moments, and then you're going to come back, and then you're going to build it up again, and then you're going to come down, and then you're going to build it up again, and then you're going to go. It could take hours of this long, beautiful journey that you go on together. But you have to be able to connect with your body and be able to slow down and just really go into this dimension of pleasure, right?
Mm-hmm. And it takes trust too, and you talk a lot about that in your writings. So I feel like we've already kind of talked about the energy thing a little bit, and we talked a little bit about out of body experiences. We are kind of short for time, so I want to talk about Reiki healing, and I also want to talk about past life regression. I don't know that we have time for both, so which would you rather talk about, Liana?
Well,
which do you use more often in your practice? Maybe that's an easier question.
I probably use past life regression more than Reiki. Yeah, I probably use that more. And again, I use this with people that are open to the idea, open to the concept. I also consider past lives existing all in this reality as well. So you may, when I say when you go back into your childhood, I look at that as going into a past life of yours, because you are essentially a completely different person now. So
right, age regression is definitely different, and it's approached different clinically than is past life regression, because there's evidence that age regression has benefits, and I don't know that there's evidence that past life regression does. And in fact, I happen to know there is evidence that it can be damaging.
Right. Yeah. That's
for the subject. Yeah. So
I haven't read anything about the fact that it might be damaging. I'd be kind of interested to see why somebody would, or where that evidence was that proved that it was damaging. I will go into more of a past life regression if the person is open to it, and if we feel that we but unable to find where the blockages exist in this present reality, or in any kind of age regression, right? So then we think, okay, well, maybe there's something that is beyond that, some other life of yours, some other part of who you are that you've brought to this existence. Let's examine and see if there's that possibility. I don't have a lot of clients that I deal with in past life regression, because I generally find that there's enough blockages to locate in this reality.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you say that. We've got enough problems with this life.
We got enough baggage here.
There's so many traumas that come up around sexuality. There's so many taboos that people are holding on to, and beliefs that are just locking them into being unable to move forward in their sexual life. So even those small those places, we I really focus on those, and we unlock those, and we find these places, and then they are able to move forward and open themselves up. And this reality is a long period of time, and people gather up all sorts of baggage, right, through their lives. And I just feel like there's a lot of unraveling there. When it's going into past life, then it's somebody who's really done a lot of work, and they want to go into something that's bigger and that's beyond that. And so we go into sort of a meditative state, and go and try to find something that they sense that's bigger than them, that's something that's beyond anything that they've found in this reality, something that they sense. It's sort of like a sense that we go into, and okay, let's examine where this thread goes. I kind of look at like threads, right? So where does that thread lead you? You've looked everywhere here. Well, where is that? Well, they feel this or they feel that. So we just kind of go into the thread of it and see if we can locate something that could potentially help unlock or release some kind of trauma or something that's been frozen in that place.
Yeah, see, the issue that I have with past life regression is that, for one, you're assuming that the person has a past life before you even start the process. And then while that person is in an impaired mental state, I was watching one of the more storied practitioners of past life regression, Brian Weiss. Have you ever seen him? Yeah. He's been on Oprah and whatnot. And watching him interview these people that he's hypnotized, his whole line of questioning is extremely suspect. He'll ask them leading questions. He'll ask them to go down. Now we're going to go back before you were born. We're going to go back to your past life. So right there, he's planting that idea in that person that they had a past life. And then he's asking them leading questions. How do you feel? Tell me about your trauma. Again, implying that there is trauma. So what happens is that people who may not necessarily have had a traumatic memory are having one crafted in their subconscious where it was not before, by asking these leading questions. And that it strikes me as incredibly unethical, especially when, as you say, there are plenty of problems in the here and now that you could be helping them out with. There's enough things that you could help people with without implanting false memories. And in a study done by this is the study by Nicholas Spanos, who did a series of studies at Carleton University and determined that the majority of the time these people came out worse than before. This isn't age regression therapy. This is past life regression therapy.
Right.
And a paper published in the Journal of Medical Ethics from a panel of professional psychologists did determine, or at least it's their professional opinion, that past life regression is indeed unethical. And I have to say I agree with them. There's a lot of potential for harm there.
I would also say it also occurs to me, sort of piggybacking off of what you said earlier about, people have plenty of stuff going on in their own lives in the here and now. Some people have repressed memories, and is it possible that wherever their blockage exists in their life, but it's not something that they can consciously point to? Because I realized just the other day, like, holy shit, I have some repressed memories, because I was talking to a friend about how one of my coworkers saw me have a panic attack at work because a customer was yelling at me. And I told her, yeah, my dad yelled at me as a kid. And then I thought about it and I realized I could not remember what his voice sounded like when he yelled. Like, I could not remember a single instance of that happening, even though I knew it happened. I was like, oh, I guess I repressed that. I guess that's just kind of gone from my brain now.
Yeah.
And that's the common trauma response. So I guess I'm wondering how you can rule that out as a possibility to jump from, well, maybe you just don't remember the thing that got you all messed up, to say, well, maybe the messed up thing happened in an entirely different life that I'm not even sure actually happened,
Yeah, I mean, I personally would not lead somebody into it. I'm not going to lead them into it. I want them to lead me. If they lead me somewhere, now I don't know what I can't tell you exactly their entire life. I don't know their life. So it could be places from something that happened within their life and they've repressed it, and it comes up. We rewrite our history all the time, because as we change our beliefs, things from our past actually change too. So things might come up that sound like they could be from, sometimes they sound like they're not from this reality, and it's okay. Well, let's just go there and see what you feel, what's happening, what's going on. Let's look at this. Not trying to encourage a direction, but instead, like, let it unfold and see what happens.
Now, how do you determine that a trauma isn't from this reality? Is there a process that you have? Like, is there a series of triggers? Like, what might induce you to take that? Because I understand you're saying you let them lead you, but you are a sex coach and counselor, so implicit there is some form of leadership or direction, right? That's what a coach does. So, what might make you? How do you determine that a trauma is from a past life and not from this one?
Well, I mean, they might say. I'll just think of an example. Somebody said that they were fighting with guns. They were in a they were talking about things that didn't exist that seemed to not exist in their reality, like in their lifetime. They were talking about something that was far more historical, right? So. And they had this feeling, this connection to that. And so that's the only indication. It's just that they have a specific kind of feeling that this is where they are, or they have a premonition of it. Now, whether they are actually there, it feels as if they are. They feel as if they are there. It could be that they are that it's something that's come out from reading something and they've connected it to
Absolutely.
that somehow. There's a lot
Absolutely.
of different ways that you can explain it. But I don't try to judge it. I don't try to judge it. So I say, okay, well, let's see what this is about. Let's go in a little bit and see if we can find something to hold on to for you. What can you feel? What can you see? Okay, and let's see if there's something there that, and if somebody is pointing at something specifically, then that particular thing is having an effect on them, right? You don't have to dig very deeply. If somebody, even within this reality, if people just tend to, it unwinds very quickly because they're really
Hmm.
connected to them in a very strong manner, and how they remember it can be very different. It could be different every time as well. I am not a psychotherapist. I'm not a psychologist. Sometimes I'll say, listen, this is something that it's beyond what I'm going to be dealing with. I will just kind of, I'm interested in past life regression. I'm interested in if somebody is talking about something that seems to be far from their reality right now. But
Hmm.
if it's going to get to a place where I know that I just can't handle it, it's not part of what I do, I will refer them to somebody else.
I would really encourage you. I'll put we'll have in the show notes a link to the study that I was looking at, which Nicholas Spanos was probably the person who put the most actual professional, intellectual, scientific analysis into past life regression experiences. And what he found, working with these stories, is that often, in fact, every single time it's just a metaphor that the brain has created, right? Like the person might be seeing guns or gunfire, which is a metaphor for conflict, unresolved conflict, right? And you do dream analysis, so you know what I'm saying here, right?
Yeah.
And the things where the cases where people have come up, supposedly they're from 16th century England, right? But upon analysis, the language in the stories they're telling is not like, the language isn't actually how people in 16th century England taught. It's how they're portrayed on television. In one case, a lady was talking about the house that she was born in being made of wood in Ireland. And then upon actual investigation, there were no wooden houses in that village.
It's really wet.
Yeah, right.
It sounds like he very much wants to, get to the heart of this, debunk it as much as possible, find out.
Well, no. See, that's the thing, is that he's not trying to debunk it. And that's the thing with the scientific method, is that you don't have your conclusion before you go and hunt for evidence, before you do your experiment, right? Your conclusion is dictated by the results of your experiment. And with past life regression, you've already decided that it's there going into it. So it's a very dangerous thing to do, I think. Age regression, on the other hand, I did see some evidence for that. I'm not a psychologist either, but I can stand on the shoulders of giants and I can read published papers in scientific journals and see what professionals in the field think, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's more likely that our brain is a wet... Sorry, Rudy.
No, you're fine. All I was going to say is that we have one more call to get to. And I'm invested in this conversation.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say our brain is a wet machine capable of creating all sorts of illusions. We don't understand it very well.
I hate the phrase wet machine. I hate that you said the words wet machine.
It's Thursday. It's Thursday, Rudy.
It's also that we don't understand a lot yet well.
This is true.
A lot, including past life possibilities. And, you're going to be able to find study. Okay, let's just move on. But I'd be interested to read.
I found
Send me the information. I like to read it. I'm interested.
I will.
I'm always
I will.
interested. I'm interested in everybody's perspective, and there is research being done in all sorts of directions. So, and there's a lot we don't know for sure. A lot.